Really fun part about recording yourself is when you need to re-record 15 minutes of your entire footage because you were blurry because you weren't wearing your glasses. So here we go, round 2. Now that I get to do this all over again, you know, nothing like starting over, right, Rufus? Here's my bone to pick, and it's not to start an argument or to have the internet come after me. I'm tired of not seeing women in sport on TV. We just watched the Olympics this winter. We saw so many female and male athletes working their asses off to get to this point. But what about the women who are working hard outside of the Olympics? What about those women who still play sports and are still kick-ass athletes, but we have no clue who they are or what they do because we don't see them? I've had the opportunity to play sports. I have a lot of friends who've played sports, and we have no recognition because we're not broadcasted anywhere other than Facebook. We aren't talked about on the news. We're rarely talked about on social media, let's be honest. It's the male teams, the male athletes, what the guys are doing. Let me take these off now that I know I'm in focus because, you know, glare. So here I am bringing some awareness to people of the internet and of the world so that you can get to know some of the female athletes that are living in Winnipeg just outside your door who work really, really hard and aren't getting enough credit for it. What's up? Now we're in a car because my life doesn't stop just because I need to film. First person we're going to see is Megan Johnson. Megan played soccer for NDSU. She was the captain there in her senior season, and now she's a recent grad from the physiotherapy department in the University of Manitoba.
I was in grade 11 is when I officially committed to North Dakota State. So I knew for a couple of years before I graduated high school that I would be at North Dakota State continuing my education. So when I went in there, I was really fortunate. The defense position was open and I filled the spot immediately. So I actually got to play almost every single minute of my career.
So one of the fun things about making this video is that I'm also learning things as well. And even though I've known the people that I have the pleasure of interviewing pretty much my whole life, I'm still learning things. So one thing I learned while Megan and I were talking was about Title IX. And I had no idea that Megan actually wouldn't have been able to play in the States without this bill being passed. Title IX is defined as this: no person in the United States shall, on the basis of sex, be excluded from participation in, be denied the benefits of, or be subject to discrimination under any educational program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. So even though this bill was passed however many years ago, it still is in effect today, and it still affected the fact that Megan was able to go to the States and play soccer at such a high level.
It was a really, really big deal when this bill passed, and it was actually pretty interesting. I was calling alumni one day thanking them for their support, and I got on the phone with somebody who was part of putting that bill into action essentially, and she just talked to me for like 45 minutes about how amazing it was to be in basketball and be a woman at that time and how empowering it was. And it's crazy that that was 46 years ago.
Next, I spoke to Danielle Maxwell, who's been playing hockey for 21 years, played for the University of Prince Edward Island, and is now a corrections officer. Badass!
Growing up, my biggest influence playing hockey was my brother and my father. They both played. I just wanted to be like my brother. Growing up in a small town, there's not an option for women's hockey. So I played boys up until I was 10 years old. And then they only had a female team for 2 years. And then I had to go back to males hockey. I was playing hockey around the age of 12, 13. And that's the year that boys normally get drafted to play higher level hockey. A coach came out to watch my defenseman partner, and he actually told the coach that I was the player he was interested. He thought I was so good, but he also thought I was a boy. It's almost like not a slap in the face, but a backhanded comment where the female on the team can't be the best player or wouldn't be someone he would look at. But it was definitely the moment when I realized, wow, I can play hockey. If someone thought that I could play men's hockey at a high level, I knew that this was my sport.
So even though Danielle eventually found out that hockey was her sport, and trust me, it is, I've seen the woman play, it took her being mistaken as a guy for her to realize that.
It's crazy that as far as we've come, we still are way behind men. I definitely looked up to more men hockey players because there wasn't really any females that were brought out there. There was Sammy Jo Small and Hayley Wickenheiser, and that was about it. Like, there was no attention to Team Canada. Like, you didn't see them in the media. You just knew that they won and you knew that they were talented, but you never knew who was playing. It's hard to not idolize men when there's no women to idolize.
What's up? Me again. Sorry, no pink shirt this time. Don't worry, she comes back later. Next up, I talked to Kaylee Doby. She played for the University of Manitoba Bisons for 4 years and was captain of the team for 2 of her seasons. And now she's a recently graduated teacher.
My career started when I was about 6 or 7 years old. My dad, who was the university of Manitoba football coach, used to take me to the women's volleyball practices at the university. And that's where I met my head coach, Ken Bentley, for the first time, I guess, that I can remember at least. It was an amazing experience for me because I was so little and a little intimidated by all these tall, beautiful, strong women who really embraced me coming to their practices. They didn't treat me like some little girl. They kind of looked at it as an opportunity to inspire a young female, and I loved every second of it. I, having now finished my career, understand the amount of effort it takes, the strength, not only physically but mentally, that it takes to be not only an athlete but a student athlete. People would ask me the question of my connection with my dad, that my choice to go there was because he was the coach. And that kind of bugged me. I respect the heck out of my dad. It has nothing to do with that, but my choice was my choice because I worked hard. I worked really hard in the off season. I worked hard to make connections with my teammates through my club experience, and those women themselves empowered me. By being on a team together, we really found a way to empower each other, to benefit from each other's strengths and each other's weaknesses, and I found every opportunity in my club experience that guided me to take the next step and sign at the University of Manitoba. I believed in what the program could offer me, and I knew that the women that I had looked up to when I was 6 or 7 years old were still the legacy that Bison volleyball still is today, and I wanted to be a part of something that great. So in 2014 we won the national championship, and it was the most incredible moment in my career. The following year, we had been promised an incredible article coverage in the Free Press. It was going to be a monthly thing that came out, and the first month was amazing. Front page of the sports section. Actually, there I was digging a ball at practice, and it was amazing. It was so cool, like even to see a woman on the front page, huge picture of the Free Press, was fabulous. Unfortunately, our season didn't go as well as the season before. We actually had a pretty unsuccessful season, and it was interesting because although we were promised a monthly coverage of how our team was doing and, you know, the next season, what does it look like, it seemed to be based off of our success.
I can't help but think that if it was the men's team they were covering, that they would continue to cover them regardless of whether or not they were winning or losing, because
they're the underdogs and they'll come through.
People just love men's sports. So maybe you're wondering what's so special about me or why I'm making this video. Maybe you're not, because I'm not that interesting. I also played volleyball for many, many years of my life. Haley was actually the one who got me into the sport. I wound up playing for a couple years in college and, you know, did my thing. And now I'm a head coach of 12-year-old girls for Windman Volleyball Club. Coaching 12-year-old girls is more than just showing up at practices and tournaments. I get to be, for some of these girls, the first coach they've ever had or first female coach that they may ever have. And not only do I get to pass down my knowledge of a sport that I worked really, really hard at and love dearly. I was not an athlete when I was growing up. I get to teach them what it means to be a woman in sport. I get to be the influence that they're not seeing on TV and they're not seeing on social media. They get to see a young woman walk into a gym and be a leader and have a position that they can one day have themselves. I get to empower young women to be strong and embrace their athleticism and show them that bruises are not ugly. They're a masterpiece of your hard work. I don't take for granted the role that I have or the job that it is to teach these women not just to be an athlete, but to be a boss woman in this world where sports are so male dominated. I will never take for granted the opportunity to talk about women in sport, to talk about my experience, to share the experience of my friends and these 12-year-old girls who I'm so proud of. Frankly, they inspire me to be a better person and to be a better coach and to help them be better women in sport. I'm not going to give you some awkward in conclusion statement. I'm just going to encourage you to go and talk to women that you have in your life who've played a sport or are currently playing a sport and talk to them about what it means to be a woman in sport to them and talk to them about how hard they're working, because I guarantee it's harder than you think it is.
We support women in sport! Woo! Yeah!